So housing.
Yeah.
What is the plan? Where are these 1,300 new residents of Calgary going to be living?
I think what we like to happen is that they would live across the city everywhere. That is the best practice.
That'd be ideal, sure.
But unfortunately, one of the issues we had from the beginning, the only challenge we had from the beginning was actually housing, and it still is the housing. Because what happens is with the government-sponsored refugees, the living allowance that they receive upon arrival is very low. I give you an example. For a family of 4, there are $695
For 4?
to find an accommodation in Calgary.
Okay.
For single person is $375. So this has been a big problem that we've been facing for some time. We brought to attention the governments, both federal and provincial, but the federal issues actually, because they provide up to 1 year's support. But there are issues that they have, political issues that they think that they cannot pay more than what the social services in each province pays for the living allowance for people on the social system.
Yeah.
Personally, I don't agree with that, because we are bringing these people here hoping that they actually move on and not to go to our social assistance, and this is actually the effort that we are making on that.
Well, I mean, it's not just a hope. Studies have been conducted that sort of demonstrate that refugees that come to new lands, they don't tend to stay stagnant. They tend to progress fairly quickly.
They do. Actually, especially in Canada, I think we have amazing positive stories, starting with Ukrainian, Vietnamese, Polish, and all the people that come.
Sure.
I mean, it's an amazing story.
Yeah.
But that has been, unfortunately, something that has not been addressed. In the beginning of this process, I was asked, because I sit on a number of committees nationally and locally, about the challenge we had, and I identified housing. Again, as I said, it's not only a short-term thing. We have to start thinking about the long-term, because we have about 2,000-3,000 people coming, or 2,000 coming to Calgary, let's say, in the next 12, 18 months. We don't want them all end up in a one neighborhood. I think this is a bad practice. I think what happens
I would agree with that,
in some of the cities in Europe, even some areas in Toronto, I'm really pushing that to avoid that. So people have to be scattered across the city. Now, unfortunately, that is an issue. However, I think for this particular project, we have some people, some landlords, they came up. I mean, Main Street and Boardwalk, they are already prepared to give some concession.
Credit where it's due, that's great.
Yeah, that's what they are trying to do, and I think they are trying to make best out of it. But I think I really have been telling that to our politicians and our city planners, that we should avoid having large number of any ethnic group, especially refugees, to concentrate in one neighborhood, because it's not healthy, because they don't come here to go with that specific low-income neighborhood. They come to live in Calgary, and I think we have to come with some clear policies to make sure we don't have those ghettoization that some cities are having now, and they are paying a big price for it.
I would definitely tend to agree. During the federal election, there was a lot of talk about refugees being described as a security threat. What is your position regarding that statement?
Again, you have to recognize I've been a person that I have traveled to many, many countries. I've survived a number of revolutions, war in Iran, Iraq. So my perspective might be a little bit different. But I always say that the whole conversation about security and what's happening in Middle East in respect to countries like Canada is a serious discussion. And I'm not just brushing it away. It is a serious discussion. I think we should have it. Now, bringing that discussion in the context of refugee resettlement is a little bit, I think, is misleading, basically, because when you have about 10 million, I don't know, maybe 20 million people come to Canada as a tourist every year, and you have a process called refugee selection process that actually you go in person and connect with the federal government agent. You get fingerprinted, you go through your biometric recording and all other issues, and there are 3 or 4 levels of scrutiny and security check. So it is an issue that we need to know that at least if we have a concern, we should have concern on other form of migration to Canada or visitors to Canada, not this population. And I understand, again, we know that, but again, the fear of people is serious. I don't think that we should take it seriously. We should have a discussion on that.
People should keep in mind, though, as well, over the past handful of years, we've seen 23,000 Iraqis resettle in Canada, and it seems as though they've been behaving themselves pretty well.
Yeah, especially,
I'm going to jump to another quick break, though. We got to check in with the rant pack again, folks. Stay with us.
I believe the Syrian refugee crisis is pretty serious. We are a country founded by refugees and immigrants, so us to turn them away is ridiculous. To all those people that say they're coming here and they're going to take our job, they're taking the jobs no one else wants. If you really are out of work, you want a job, you can pick up your entire life, your entire family, and go work at a fast food store in Cold Lake, Alberta, or something like that if you really are that concerned about having a job. I know you want a job in your field, which there's a 99% chance the Syrian refugees aren't going to take anyways.
So, sir, I'll let you respond to Adam's comments about employment.
Okay, I think you have to go back and look at the historical evidence. I think when we talk about the short term, what happened next month or next 6 months, that is something that I would not concentrate on. What happens in the longer term, we have to look at it. When we look at the statistic, refugees, they are very motivated. Refugees make good citizens. I mean, that is all the studies show. They are here to establish a life. In my own case, and many people that I know and I work with, there is no way to go back. This is it. This is my country. I mean,
it's got to work, right?
I have to work.
Yeah.
I came to Canada with 2 degrees, one in maritime science from England, one from back in Iran, and I delivered pizza for sometimes to supplement my very low-paid job that I got in the morning. Yeah. And I had no problem doing that. I did that for 2 years. Cool. So usually refugees do well because they are committed, they save money, they buy a house, obviously they do well. And I don't think when you look at, again, you have to go back. Look at the Ukrainian refugees, where they are today. Vietnamese refugees that we had. At the time, I'm sure there were a lot of questions, the similar question people were having.
History does tend to repeat itself.
But look at the Vietnamese, how the second generation are doing, how fantastic they have evolved to being the fantastic citizen and being professionals. Look at even the former Yugoslavian that we had just about 15 years ago that they moved to Canada as a refugee. They are doing amazingly well, and Kosovo. So I think I'm very positive about it because I live with that. I know the numbers, I've seen the research, and I think if people take time to really understand, look for the evidence, look at how refugees settle. And I can tell you, I mean, look at our mayor. He's a child of a refugee. He came as a child refugee. So I mean, look at Adrian Clarkson.
Good example.
We have many examples. So again, if you look at the evidence, is a positive thing. However, I think there's a lot that we have to do to make sure it happens right.
Yes.
I mean, you can't take it for granted. You can't bring people and just let it on their own. You have to provide them support. You have to create a condition that they become successful, the children. And we've done an amazing job. Look at our school system. They've done an amazing job in really integrating children from, I mean, we worked with them. We had refugees coming from Burma. They were a group of people that they never lived outside the camp. And when we look at the progress the children have made and how fantastic they have done, it's just miracle. It's just amazing. So I'm very positive about that. I don't think people should worry about those things.
The policy of our federal government is to essentially welcome families, women, not a whole lot of unaccompanied adult males. Is that a fair play?
I think when you look at, again, numbers, I think it may not be exact, accurate statement. However, I think for the perception at this point, because of some of the conversation was going on regarding the Syrian refugee and what happened, obviously we can't ignore them. I mean, what's going on in the United States now, how the politicians approaching us is impacting us. That's very much, we watch their TV all the time, so we cannot say that it's not impacting us. I don't think the government has actually a specific plan not to bring the singles man here, but we have to remember, when you go there and there are 4 million people and you're looking for the highest in need, so then maybe single man would not be your first choice.
I mean, I think it's fair, right?
That's how I look at it. But again, the members of the LGBT community, obviously, this is a group that have been persecuted in that area, still in the camp, they're not safe. And I think it has been our priority, it has been the government priority that bring people that they are.
And that's a good point. That is a good point. The government has prioritized gay males, accompanied or not.
Exactly.
Canada,
So obviously, because again, it goes back to the overall definition of the highest need of protection. And obviously, the gay man is a highest need of protection in that area, so that should not be a problem.
Real quick, we're almost out of time. If the average Calgarian wants to help the plight of these Syrian refugees, what can they do?
I think the number of things we can do, again, not only Syrian refugees, all the people
refugees
that we have in general, and also all the vulnerable people in our community. I think I mean, I always say that we've been a very smart city. Now is the time for us to become a wise city, knowing that we have to really look at the people that are unprivileged. They are, you know, they're going through a tough time in their life, either born in Canada or being in refugees. In respect to refugees and the context that we are talking about today, there are many ways people can do it. We have a website, Calgary Catholic Immigration Society website. Yeah. We're also trying to put in another website just for Syrian refugee. At this point, obviously the cash will help. I just was telling you about this
housing,
man actually the family that they brought their distant relative here, and the gentleman passed away.
Right.
So you know how expensive it is. I don't know whether you know that, but it's expensive to die in this country, in this city. So obviously we are covering some of that cost. So some people that they sponsored a year ago, people they actually have lost their jobs, so they may need a little bit of support. So that is what we have decided. All the donations that come to Calgary Catholic Immigration Society, 100% will go actually into the hand of refugees. We're not taking any administration or any other
That's admirable. That's the way it should be. That's
them.
refreshing, frankly.
And also again, as we as individuals, as a neighbors, as a co-worker, as a classmate, we have to be really aware of these people have gone through a lot of tough time. I mean, imagine for years, 3 years, they never slept one night feeling that there's another day that they can wake up.
Just be decent, folks. How about that? Exactly. You know, let's all just be decent.
And be kind to them, and I think understand them. Once we understand, that fear really comes from lack of knowledge.
I think you're right.
I mean, and what you're doing, I mean, I appreciate what you're doing, even bringing that question up. And again, we also have to respect people that they have
opinions, yeah, sure, but I mean, educate, right?
Exactly. The conversation is very, very helpful.
Sir, thank you very much for taking the time, joining us tonight. Greatly appreciate it, and you should be proud of the work you do. I'll tell you, cast and crew here, we definitely are. I think it's a good thing. Thanks again.
Thank you very much. No, thank you for the opportunity.
Folks, that's all the time we've got for tonight. As always, you can get at us on Facebook. We're also on Twitter. Don't be a stranger. Until next time, take care.